Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the CX Goalkeeper podcast. Your host, Gregorio Lioni, will have smart discussion with expert, thought leader, and friends on customer experience, transformation, innovation, and leadership. I hope you will enjoy the next episode. Ladies and gentlemen, today is really a big pleasure. I have Vincent Placer avec moi. Hi Vincent, how are you?
Hi Gregorio. Fine. Very happy to talk to you today.
Thank you very much. I'm really happy to have again a great ambassador from the European Customer Experience Organization with me to start a discussion. Today it will be all about cost management and how to interact and work with this cost in order to, and I'm quoting what you already told me, to get more for the equal or equal for the less. And I think it will be outstanding. But before we deep dive in this topic, Vincent, could you please introduce yourself?
Okay, so Vincent, I am in charge of an agency in France which is dealing with customer experience, working both in the consulting field and also in the customer feedback management. We have a SaaS platform to handle that. So we are very focused on customer experience and customer relationship. The company has more than 18 years of existence, and I joined 6 years ago now, and that's exactly that. And I'm working on the client marketing field for about 20 years, working in the telecommunication industry and the consulting field for all these years.
Thank you very much, Vincent. And this was, if somebody was looking for that, the explanation, how much experience Vincent has in this field and in this topic. And therefore, I'm really thrilled to start the discussion. But before we discuss about your daily job, one question or some questions on the European Customer Experience Organization. Why do you think it makes sense to have an European organization?
I am participating in some local association, but I think it's very important to also have pan-European clubs where we can exchange ideas with other countries. Even if there are some part of the customer experience that may be very specific to any culture, it's important also to see other experience and see how you can transfer some part, because there are some very fine ideas that can come from Sweden, from Italy, from Spain. Some of them may not be applicable to the French market sometimes, but some other could well be a very good practice that you can adapt. And the idea of sharing in a European club is very interesting. And when Ricardo and some of the ambassador came, the idea was also to say, okay, a lot of the production about customer experience is led by United States, which is great. They have great content, but having something which a kind of group producing rich content at the European level, I think it really matters, and that's why I wanted to join this initiative.
It totally makes sense, because at the end we have also different cultural setup. Not saying what is better or what is worse, but it's different, and therefore it's important also to share knowledge, information, and really great example about Europe, because we have this example, and it totally makes sense to share them. You have, let's say, additionally to your daily job, this great title, Ambassador of the European Customer Experience Organization. What is the role of an ambassador in this community?
The role of the ambassador is, of course, to make the association to be more famous in your local market. So for my case, I am ambassador for the French for the French part. So when I have business contacts in my daily job, I present to the people I work with the association to say, okay, if you want to join, there is a great opportunity to have a community working around customer experience in Europe. So advocating the community, and at the same times, in a joint effort with all other ambassadors, trying to work on how to develop that. So bringing some support when there are some events, some conference, try to bring ideas. Of course, it's always a challenge because we know that time is limited, and sometimes joining in a podcast and discuss with very experienced people too.
Thank you very much. And this is always what I am saying, and therefore I cannot repeat that because you said that. But this is the big opportunity that I have as a member to speak with the ambassador. I spoke with people from Spain, Enrique, from Switzerland, Federico, with you in France. And it's really great to have such discussion because it's at the end we learn from each other, and this is the outstanding part of being part of such a community. Now, also, thank you very much thanks to the European Customer Experience Organization, we can discuss on how to reduce the cost of a remote customer relationship. And I think this is something really, really interesting, but it's extremely important nowadays. Let's say we can say during COVID or after COVID, depending from the different views, and we are also coming to the end of the year. It means the pressure on cost increase and increase and increase. Perhaps could you start sharing what are your thoughts around this topic and why it makes sense to look at the cost in customer relationship?
Yeah, but it's interesting. We see it in our assignment. We have many clients that are very interesting in developing their customer experience, but you cannot say, even if it is something that will bring value in the end to your business, you cannot have unlimited resources to develop it. It's not possible to have in a company. We say, okay, you have unlimited resources. You can spend how much you want on with regard to this topic. You can have large resources, medium resources, small resources, but never unlimited. So we start to discuss with some of our clients who said, okay, I am spending the right amount. To what extent I could have even a better experience with what I spend, because sometimes you may have invest in something that does not produce the result you expect. So the idea is not to say customer experience is a cost center, which is not at all my opinion. It's to say, okay, with the budget I have, how can I do the best I can? So either I want to have, as we say, more for less, which is to say a more for equal, which is to say, okay, I have this amount of 100% of my budget. I want to have a better quality where I should invest a little bit more, where I should divest a little bit, which is a first topic. Or I say, okay, I'm happy with the customer experience that the customer are having today in our company. It is the standard we wanted to reach. Could I do it for a little bit less? And which are the two situations in which we are dealing with this idea of finding the right level of investment in your company compared to the customer experience and the customer satisfaction you want to reach. And that is a trade-off, which is interesting. And it is a very tough question because at the beginning of the customer experience paradigm, we started with some ideas where money doesn't count. Okay, for a while, money didn't count, but really soon, financial department come back and say, hey guys, we are spending now hundreds of kilo euro or millions, and where that it goes, how much at the end of the day we make in terms of additional sales, or so. It's interesting to have the topic, and I'm very sure that at the end, because we measure that on the other end, that investing in the customer experience leads to business value creation in the medium and long run.
Yes, and it totally makes sense. And I really like how you started this discussion. 2-3 comments from my side. First of all, it's cost management, because it's what you are speaking about. It's not only for companies that are facing issues, but are also for companies that are growing. Because if your number of customers is, let's say, increasing also linearly, you cannot increase the number of employees working in your company also in this way, because at the end you cannot always increase, and therefore cost management is extremely important. And speaking about customer experience or customer service, at the end, these departments are not cost center, because this is the old-fashioned idea that they are cost center. These departments create value. They can be really a value generating engine of the business, because they have contact interactions with the customer. They can speak with them. They understand the customer and all these relevant topics. I wrote also a chapter in one book, Customer Experience 3, about value generation in customer service. But now it's your interview, and I know that you have also a framework how you proceed doing this analysis. Could you please share that with us?
Yeah, so this is an issue we have had several assignments on that. The first thing which is important to know is that we have lost a little bit in the company. We see now the cost to the idea of the cost to serve a customer. Generally, when we start to speak with people, they say, okay, we would like to have a better experience for the same cost, but we say, okay, how much do you spend? And the answer we get is different from company to company. Some are only counting the amount of the money they give to their external partner in client service, and say that's the amount of my customer relationship. And we say, okay, are you sure? And the people that are managing them, do you count them? The IT development you have made to have the tools, do you count them? So we have started to produce a framework, which is not something that we will say it's a standard for everybody, but just a process to say, okay, let's try to have a right starting point to say, okay, how much do you invest in customer experience and customer relationship, taking into account digital transversally to the organization, and start to say, okay, and compare it with the number of customers you are dealing with, or the number of sales you are making each day, or the number of interaction, and to say, okay, with this number, which is now on the table, are we happy with that? For example, if we say, okay, we invest, I don't know, 150 euros per year for managing the customer experience and customer relationship with the client. Are we happy with 150? If we have a business of maybe, I don't know, a revenue of 1,500, we would say, okay, why not? Fine. If we have a revenue of only 300, we would say, okay, maybe it's high at the end. So where are we sure? So that's the idea, to have the first number and say, are we happy with this number? Where we expecting this number? Are we happy with it? And now where we go? And that's the first step, to be sure that everybody in the company is aligned, and nobody would say, that is not what we invest in that. That's the first starting point, very important. Basic, it's not rocket science, it's just try to have a good perimeter. I know that you love the sport. It's like it's like the ground field for the soccer play. We know where the ground field is now. And now we say, okay, when we move, where would we want to move into that? So
yes.
That's the first start.
No, I think it's totally makes sense. And what you are saying with my words is, you need to measure that, because what you are not measuring, you cannot improve, you cannot check, and you cannot control, and therefore it totally makes sense. Yeah. And basically, sorry for interrupting you. Exactly what you are saying. You define what to measure, and what are the next steps? Yeah. So when we have this starting point, we identify generally 3 broad levels in which you can optimize your cost for client service and customer experience. The first one is around contact avoidance.
So in the customer interaction you are dealing with, they may have some of them that have neither value for you as a company and for your client. For example, the typical example in retail, customer calling just to know when our a store open does not make me any joy in my day as a customer. And at the same time, for the company, it's a very basic answer I want to have. So of course, it's a very easy example, but there are some other where you can find that you could manage the interaction, delivering the same experience at the end of the day by finding some way to eliminate those low value interactions. So that's the first step, to say, okay, at the end, it costs less because we don't handle anymore with human this low value interaction. My customers are not less happy because we have kept all the medium and high value interaction, and that we don't change. So that's the first level, and it's something where you look at the journey around the steps. You look at the interaction you have, and you question, either internally or coming back to your client, do you feel it is important to talk with us right at this point? And when you see that the majority say the value is not so impressive and we don't expect to be delighted there, you could say, okay, could I find some digital alternative that would help or simplify my journey so that this question don't even raise anymore? So that's the two way to have this first. So that's a first area where you can improve.
And I think it totally makes sense. Back to what I wrote, and it's exactly the same what you are saying, is the value irritant matrix. You need to identify the interaction that create values, and you handle this interaction in a different way than the interaction that are irritating. And exactly what you were saying from both point of view, from the company point of view, but also from the customer point of view. And based on that, then you can focus on really generating value. One topic is cost avoidance. Are other topics that you touch base?
Yeah. So the second layer where you can find some way to deliver the same experience for lower cost is to go to the operational excellence in your operation. So what we see is that sometimes by looking at the way you handle your processes, looking deeply in the way you are organized, looking on the way you are training people, give them the right tools and so on. There are areas to improve the speed, the quality of the service you deliver for a more optimized cost at the end. So again, the idea is not to say customer experience costs too much. The idea is to say we don't have to overpay for it at a certain level, because the money we could save there could be invested in something, in a more premium services elsewhere. So the idea, again, is not to say we want to cut costs just for the sake of cutting costs. It's to say we want to be efficient enough to have resources to make them somewhere else. So on the operational excellence, strong improvement relies in process. We have in our company some process engineers that are working to really redesign some processes, and sometimes you see that you can save a lot of time internally, even improving the quality that you serve at the end, because it's less costly, but also it's more quick, and the customer is also happy when you say, okay, it goes quicker at the end. So there are organization, process, tools, and people on operational excellence. Of course, it's not easy because there are many there are many examples of things you can do, but it's really a second part of your operational excellence and a way to optimize your cost of customer experience and customer relationship.
Clear. This is extremely important, and you are mentioning also about quality. Quality helps externally with customer, because if you don't make mistakes, you don't have interactions, and on the other side also internally, because if everybody needs to take a task, an interaction or something in the end twice or three times, then it costs and it brings no value added. Normally the best thing are always three, and you mentioned two pillars. Is there a third pillar that you would like to share with us?
At the end, also another opportunity you can consider is regarding, especially for customer interaction management. You can go to the externalization of some part of the ID. And what's interesting in our discussion, it's that sometimes it is the first driver to what people are thinking. The idea is to say it's a driver, but it's not the only driver. So it's interesting. So you can have an external partner that can brings you, that can handles for you part of your customer interaction in the journeys. Either it is only a local partner. You can have for some interaction. You could also decide to go near shore or something like that to optimize the cost to handle this interaction in a way that is more efficient for you and is suited to the quality you want to deliver. And this kind of partner can sometimes brings you also some expertise, some additional tools or things like that. So it's not just only about the cost. It could also be a partner that has some experience and some people that are more trained than the one you have inside your company, because there are some of them have 1,000 of people that are only handling customer interaction. So they may be a little bit more efficient than the team of 10 or 12 people you have inside, because you don't have the critical mass to be as efficient as them. So that's not only about cost, it's also about being efficient there. But that's also a level. And the idea is not to say there is one of these levels that is better than the other. The idea is to say, let's make an audit of your situation and see where we can play. If the contact avoidance part has already been tackled, okay, maybe there is no more improvement there. Now let's look to the operational excellence. Let's see the opportunity to outsource some of the team and see if it's relevant for you. And the idea is to say, okay, we are agnostic. We don't want to have a preferred level. We say what's best for you.
Exactly. And I think from my point of view, speaking about outsourcing, this is one opportunity, but at the end, you need to know what you want to measure, because you need to define as a company, what are your targets, first of all. Secondly, it's important also to work on the contact avoidance, because it doesn't make sense to split or send all the contacts to the outsourcing partner if you can avoid such discussion. And operational excellence, if you improve your processes, then also your outsourcing partner can work in a proper way, can work better. And then at the end, you have again costs, perhaps for less cost, perhaps for less, but at the end, you really need to work on operational excellence to have fixed the issues that you have, and then you can also outsource.
I wanted to share an example, because of course I cannot quote exactly the client because it's confidential, but for a company we worked with, we identified more than 20% of cost saving that were available for them, even with some improvement in their customer satisfaction. It was a situation where this topic hadn't been looked at for a while, and they could even do less cost for more experience, because there were some huge improvement and so on. And when we start working with them, when we look at the budget and the cost per interaction, we say, guys, you are not working in that field, but your cost per interaction is higher than luxury maison we are working with, and you don't deliver an experience at that standard at all. So the problem was there. So if you are delivering the same experience, we could say, I'm fine, that was my ambition, okay, but it was not the case. So that was a starting point where there were massive work to do, and we worked with them for about one short year, but there were a lot of things to do, and they could have all the three levels activated. They could avoid contact, be better organized, and they could outsource some of their activity.
Thank you very much. I think this is the great closure of this second part of the discussion. Now we are coming to the third part of the discussion, and this we would like to learn a bit more about you, Vincent. The first question I would like to ask is there a book that you would like to suggest to the audience, because you are saying this helped me during my career or helped my development?
So I didn't prepare the question, but I have a book. So I would present a book I'm reading right now, because it's related some to the customer experience, because it's a book called Noise, which is from Professor Daniel Kahneman, which is a economic Nobel Prize, and a French professor, which is Olivier Sibony. And this book shows and goes into the judgment errors. And they show that as human, we tend to rely on some processes, like, for example, judging, putting some grades, rankings, even jury in some prize. And many of these judgments may be flawed sometimes, and they present that, and they also present some ways to try to rationalize and help to have a judgment process which is better. So that's one of the book I would recommend. And not a joke, but one of the book I like is a statistics manual from the US, because the textbook from the US are very good, which is called Basic Statistics from Wonnacott and Wonnacott, which is a very classic in the US, an old textbook I have worked on. And I think that sometimes when we look at the customer experience field, we may have a tendency to look very much at the qualitative issue, which is very important and so on. But sometimes being able to make some quite quick calculation, having some idea of what is an average, what is a way to analyze an NPS figure, is it representative, isn't something you can completely avoid. So I would say that for me, I am coming from the data science, even if at that time it was not called data science, it was called data mining and so on. I am always happy to look back at those statistical problems I had and try to be aware that we need to be very careful with numbers in our daily life.
Thank you very much. I think these are two outstanding books. If somebody would like to connect with you, what's the best way?
If somebody wants to connect with you, I am very present on LinkedIn. So on LinkedIn, you find all my contact details. So anybody can reach me via LinkedIn. And generally, when someone reach me to engage conversation, I try to respond to 100% of this solicitation. Of course, those who are just presenting their product with no idea to exchange, I am less responsive to that as everybody. But always happy to exchange with a new person coming from either France or other country.
Thank you very much. And Vincent is also active on the European Customer Experience Organization, and you can contact him also through this platform.
Exactly. The Mighty Networks apps can also be a way to be reached quite easily. We have a mailbox inside the app, so I can also be joined this way as well.
Thank you very much. And the last question is the golden nugget question. It's something that we discussed or something new that you would like to leave to the audience?
Yeah, one of the golden nugget is to say join the ECXO community. If you have not already done that, join the community, come to the forum, share ideas, ask questions. It's very important that we have some issues around that. That's the main call to action I wanted to close our discussion today.
Thank you very much, Vincent. It was really a great pleasure. We discussed a really important topic. Also, now that we are coming to the end of the year and everybody is speaking and looking at cost and also preparing the forecast for next year, I think the solution or what Vincent told us, it's really important and really relevant in customer experience. I hope that the audience enjoyed this discussion as much as I did, because it was really a great discussion. Thank you very much, Vincent.
Thank you very much, Gregorio. Have a good day, and thank you for your support to the ECXO association.
Thank you very much, and also I wish you a great day. It was an outstanding discussion. Grazie mille. Arrivederci.
Merci.
If you enjoyed this episode, please share the word of mouth. Subscribe it, share it. Until the next episode, please don't forget, we are not in a B2B or B2C business, we are in a human-to-human environment. Thank you!